Howdy guys, welcome back to part 2 of this cosplay photo edit. In our first video, in part 1, we corrected the background. As you can see, this is the before and this is the after. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be touching up the costume, fixing up some of these kind of just typical wear and tear when you're wearing a costume a bit, and maybe do a little bit of makeup touch-ups, and maybe if we have some time, we'll do some cool lighting effects at the end, so stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of this cosplay photo edit. And in the first video, what we did is we basically corrected the background. As you can see here, here's the before and here's the after. So we just basically got rid of all these distracting details in the background, like this white speaker grill, these white lines overhead, and this really bright speaker was the punched in cone. We lowered the intensity of the brightness here. We also repaired this cone using the clone stamp tool, and we also got rid of this. We also fixed this corner over here, and we fixed that speaker grill. So if you haven't watched part 1, you can watch part 1 to see how I did that. But now we're going to get to the fun stuff. We are going to start repairing this costume. So the first thing I want to do is I want to try to just group all these together and have this background so I know that it's just kind of a bit more organized and it's not taking up so much space. Now if you try to group things together right now, you're going to notice it's going to get a bit funky, because what's happening is if you try to group a pixel layer with some adjustment layers together, it tries to make a clipping mask from that, and it doesn't always play nice. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of do it little by little. So I'm going to take these adjustment layers. This was the dodge and burn and the noise from the speaker. I'm going to group those together. Then these curves and this burn, these what am I trying to say? These curves adjustments that were used to make that darker, I'm going to group those together. And now that those are in those separate group, now I should be able to grab that group and the pixel layer below it and group those together, and now they're all grouped together, and I'm going to call that the background. And that's just so it's a bit more out of my way. Let's call it background fix so I don't get confused. Now it's out of my way, it's not taking up so much space, and they're all in there. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start working on this costume. Now I think I forgot to mention last time what this costume is, and this is my friend. She's cosplaying Mettaton, or MTT from the game Undertale, and we took this in this kind of really cool cosplay big studio space out here in Tokyo, where they've got a bunch of different backgrounds and a bunch of different themed rooms, and people come in on the weekends and just cosplay photo shoot and stuff, so it's pretty cool. But as you can see, just through typical wear and tear, we've got all kinds of nicks and scratches, some costume things, and some parts of the seams are coming undone. This should probably be a bit smoother, and just some parts where, you know, depending how it was made, it's just got some, it's showing the seams of things. We want to try to hide that as best we can. So first thing, as always, grab my in-painting brush tool, and this is going to really help just to get rid of, again, making sure we are current layer and below. This is just going to help just really get rid of some of these big scratches here, these big kind of dings and nicks and stuff. And I guess this is kind of like, I don't know what material this is, like an aluminum tape, or it's not aluminum tape, but something that is obviously a little bit soft but also holds on to its scratches and dings and things like that. So we are going to repair that really quick. Let's just start with this heart here. Now you can see that because of this material, it's kind of like bending, and I imagine it probably shouldn't really look like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to switch to our clone stamp tool just to get in some of these other areas here. Yeah, we'll keep this hardness at 100% to kind of preserve some of that texture. Let's just kind of do this. So for example, this is a fold. Yeah, I can tell because the light's hitting this left or the top side of it, causing a shadow on the right side, and we want to get rid of that because it should be flat, I imagine. So we're just going to come in here with a clone stamp tool, maybe bump the flow up a little bit, and just kind of get rid of that so that it does look totally flat. And the same thing here, you can see this heart, I know that this is now coming up because the light from this side is hitting that right side of it, causing a highlight, which we don't want. So I'm just going to come in here and just paint that. And maybe actually come down a little further just to actually kind of create the shape of the heart better. So this is where I was saying earlier, where if you want to be a really good, I think, retoucher, especially if you're doing things like fixing clothes, you really have to understand how light and shadow works. And you have to understand that I know that this is coming out because of the shadow being caused underneath, and how we can fix it. So I can just fix it by getting rid of that shadow and getting rid of this blue highlight from the raised portion, and just kind of like that, we have flattened out that heart. Now that actually does look a bit better, I think. So we can come in here and maybe even just like extend that here. We can even maybe try to bring in some of this color down here so it's not such a different color. Kind of smooth it out a bit. And maybe the same thing here. And if we want, we can even kind of reshape this heart a little bit. And maybe bring some of this down. Again, you can spend as much time as you like on it. I think at this bit here, it looks all right. Now let's see if we can fix some of these other creases. So I guess depending on what material she was using, she's using a soft material, which is why things are bending and creasing in places that they probably shouldn't. Come on, let's grab that. And let's just kind of fix some of this here. Again, a lot of these like really specular highlights are being caused by a bend or a crease in the material, which probably shouldn't be there. So I'm just going to go through really quick. Let's lower the flow a little bit so I can work a bit smoother, and let's just kind of do that, and that's going to really help things look pretty good. Then here, for what I can do is I can just maybe sample right on this seam, and let's actually go back to 100%. And remember, you can use your left and arrow keys to rotate your clone stamp brush. That's gonna be really helpful when I want to try to like match an angle, or I'm kind of going around a curve or something. Now this isn't perfect, but we will blend it in a second. Let's do the same thing here. Maybe I'll sample right there, move my arrow keys to try to get something that looks okay. Then I can lower the flow and kind of fix this a little bit here. Like so. You know, sampling from different areas to kind of, maybe I can even come try to get that. There we go. And again, we've got a specular highlight, which is being caused by the material folding up where we don't want it to. So this is quite interesting. This is actually quite different than doing normal like skin retouching, because we're fixing things that normally you wouldn't have to worry about. But this is actually really good because a lot of times if you're doing any kind of fashion or portrait work, you know, there's might be things that you need to fix in the clothes, and knowing that you can apply the same details of skin retouching to clothes, yeah, it's really helpful. So that's pretty much the heart. I think that looks pretty good. We can come in here and still remove some of these other specular highlights. Maybe extend this pink over here. And let's go switch back to our in-painting brush and just kind of get rid of these bright specular highlights. Alrighty. Let's call that done because I don't want to spend a million. I think you get the idea of what I'm doing, and you can really, if you wanted to, I could come and reshape this so it's actually completely straight and that this is not extending down so far. But I think that's okay. We get the idea. Alrighty. So that's that. So all I'm really going to be doing is something just really similar across the whole suit, is just coming in, finding little patches that need to be fixed, and just coming through, usually starting off with the low flow clone stamp tool, which a lot of times that'll get the job done. And if I need something a bit more severe, I can come and try to blend it in. That's the shadow. We don't want to break that up. So we'll just come back here. So it's just really good practice knowing where to stamp from, where to source from. Maybe grab this white, and now I can try to blend this back in a bit, and just kind of going back and forth, blending in different things, and that looks fine. Switch to the in-painting brush to do a lot of that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through the rest of the costume really quick. I'm going to go ahead and touch up a lot of this stuff like I did before. I'm going to speed it up, and then I will bring it back when we get to some of the hard parts. All right, so just stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So as you can see, we just kind of fixed a lot of the little nicks and touch-ups and stuff like that, especially around these round bits. You know, these can be kind of hard to do depending on how you make them, I guess, but I think it came out all right. Looks a bit better. I also removed the seam on the pants. Obviously, pants have seams, but I just thought it might be kind of cooler, more costumey looking without it. So I think what I want to do now is fix this underside of the shoulder bell, and then also fix this part here. And I thought this would be a bit of an interesting complex process, so I thought I'd show it to you. But again, it's really more the same. It's just going to be a lot of clone stamping, and then maybe using some dodge and burn to create highlights and shadows. So for example, I'm going to just grab something from down here, and I've got kind of a 20% flow going, 0% hardness, and just kind of basically rebuilding this shoulder bell. And I'm not too worried about the darkness and lightness right now, because we can come in later with dodge and burn to correct it. But just like how we did with a speaker grill in that first video, it's just a little bit of back and forth, and also understanding how light works. So if I look at this image, you know, we've got, if I remember correctly, I've got a pink light coming from this way, a blue light coming from this way. I think maybe I had another middle white light coming from the top left. So we know that probably this upper part should be a bit in shadow, this lower part's getting hit, but because of the material bending in every which direction, it makes it sometimes hard to see like what the true value of the light should be. But I think we've got a rough idea, and we can always make it, fake it, and no one will know any better. So I'm just going to go through really slow here and just try to first off smooth out the wrinkles on this shoulder underneath part. And I'm going to go pretty fast, just so you don't have to sit me watch me do this for 10 minutes. Just kind of get it really rough in the area. Maybe I'll drop my flow down a bit just so I can maybe blend these parts together a bit nicer. And something like that. And we did lose a lot of texture, so you see this grain that was here initially. Now we've kind of lost a lot of that with our low flow clone stamping. But we can bring that back just by adding a noise layer, just like we did on that speaker grill. All right, so let's back up. All right, it looks a little better. The lighting's not great. Let me see if I can kind of maybe bring this in. Maybe not make it so dark around there. Maybe actually lighten it up a bit. Actually, that looks a little better. There we go. All right, that looks a bit better. We can kind of get rid of this white part here. All right, well, already that looks significantly better. You can see that, and it's a lot smoother. And maybe I can just come in here and just try to like, sample from here and just smooth out some of these darker parts. There we go. Okay, I think this looks pretty good, to be honest. If I wanted to, maybe I could go ahead and make a curves burn layer. I'm going to invert that. And because this color is so saturated, I'm going to go ahead and switch this to luminosity right off the bat, because I know that if I start darkening it, it's going to start getting a bit more saturated. I don't want that to happen. Switching to a brush with a 2% flow. I'm just going to maybe come in here and just kind of go over this top part just to kind of like create a little bit of shadow up here. Really subtle. You can just see just a little bit there. And yeah, maybe I need to come in with the stamp tool and fix that seam there, but that's okay. And maybe just something like that. All right, I think that looks okay. Just that little bit of shadow did what I wanted it to do. And then I can come in here with a add noise. Let's zoom in a bit. Add a little bit of noise in there. And we'll just say that. Invert it. Using a white paintbrush, I'm going to do 100% everything. I'm just going to paint this noise back in. Just to do something like this. And then let's kind of lower the intensity of it. And there we go. I think that just brings back, not that you're going to be looking at it this close, especially online, but it brings back some of the noise texture that we lost, and it kind of helps make it fit in with the image better. Alrighty, so that's the main parts there. There's some other parts that we can do, for example, like this strap or the seam showing. Again, keep it simple. We're going to switch to our clone brush. This is pretty easy fix here. And just kind of coming in here and using a clone stamp tool we can just go ahead and even get rid of this little seam here and just painting it in like that. I think the longer I've done this, I think there's a million ways and some really fancy tools within Affinity Photo or even Photoshop to do some really cool effects. But I notice that when I'm doing retouching, whether it's this kind of costume stuff, whether it's beauty, portrait, fitness, or whatever, I'm really just using like the same 4 or 5 tools over and over again. Clone stamping, healing brush, in-painting brush, dodging and burning. You know, maybe a few of the little tricks along the way, but for the most part, that's all I'm ever using for a majority of the work that I do. And it takes time. There's no real fast, like click one thing and boom, it looks perfect. There's no instant filter that's going to correct this stuff. If you want it to look really good, then you're going to have to spend the time to do it right. Okay. So again, we got another seam here. We could come in and we can just kind of try to erase that seam as best we can using the in-painting brush and maybe a combination of clone stamp, or maybe here I might have to come in here and just try to clone stamp and to help blend it in together like so, just so it doesn't look like, you know, she's supposed to be a robot, so I wanted to make her look like a robot. Robots wouldn't have seams, well, stitching seams on their arms. Another thing too, we can come and kind of touch up this. I might actually just get a paintbrush. I'm going to sample one of these colors right around here by holding down the option key while dragging. You can sample from a color. I'm going to go ahead and sample something like that. And then using a low flow paintbrush, just going to paint that in a bit. And with a low flow, you can kind of create streaks. It kind of makes it look a bit more natural. Maybe grab a darker color, maybe something from down here, and do something like that. And if you really want, you can touch up and straighten up these lines. So we can do something like so. And then maybe let's low flow and maybe get rid of this little crease like so. All right, so you can see that that is that part right there. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this seam on my own, and you can just watch the little sped up video, and I'll see you when we're done. Alrighty, welcome back. So as you can see, I just kind of came in here and oops, missed a spot. Oops, that's the wrong layer. Let's go over here. So as you can see, I just kind of came through and fixed up the arm and like that. Now, this is just a kind of cosplay, what I would say, retouch, and not a full-on like 3D adjustment, because I imagine these black lines should kind of be like indented into the arm, and if you really wanted to, you could do some really cool effects and have a highlight, make a shadow, make it look like her arm is actually metal. But I don't want to do that. I just want to basically show that this is a costume, but touch it up and fix it up so it looks a bit nicer. And I'm not trying to actually make her arm look like a robot. Like, I could come in here and spend a lot of time and get rid of every single wrinkle and make it look completely smooth. And that would be a pretty cool effect, but that would be something for like a totally different video. And I probably don't know if I have the skills to do that so well. But I think that's that. All right, so there's another seam down here. If we wanted to, we can come in and get rid of that really quick just to kind of keep it even or consistent. Oops. Something like that. And this side looks okay. Gloves, fine, cool. All right, so the last part, the makeup. Makeup actually looks really good. Looks totally fine. Maybe there's a few parts we could come in here and adjust. I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna call this makeup just to keep everything separate. The one difference I do see is that her neck is actually revealing her skin color underneath. I want to fix that. That's gonna be pretty easy. I'm just gonna take a brush. We're gonna grab one of these white colors over here, and I will just start painting. Let's do this. Let's actually do 100%, switch it to color, and just going to paint that white color right over there, like so. Keep that pink there because that's actually the reflection of the light. And pretty much that's done. Like, I mean, I can come in and blend it in as much as I like, but I think about right there looks pretty good. Looks fine to me. Don't go too far. Cool. That just deleted that, or not deleted that. Let's rename this now. Let's call this the neck, and now make a new layer that we will call makeup. And the makeup is fine. There are a few points I could probably touch up. Maybe this little bit of blue bleeding onto the lip there. We can fix that. Maybe this black that is, maybe it can go further into the lip. We can just do a little bit of clone stamping to do that. Because of all this white around her face, it makes the teeth look a bit yellow. So we could fix that by doing a hue, saturation, luminosity, HSL filter. We can just go ahead and grab all the colors, lower the saturation a bit, maybe even grab the yellow, add in, not the yellow, the red, and maybe just change the hue a little bit. But that's actually doing really weird things. I don't want it to do anything weird like that. Maybe just kind of yeah, do that. It's gonna get rid of that red, and then lower the opacity. So lower the saturation. What do you call that? Invert that. Sorry, invert paintbrush, white paintbrush. You know the deal. And we're just going to paint that effect in. And so it kind of gets rid of that red that was happening there. And then once it's painted in, then we can go and adjust it as much as we like. Tweak some of this stuff to get it till we think it looks, so pseudo natural. Then using black, if I wanted to paint in some of these gums a bit, I could do that just so it doesn't look almost black and white, like our teeth are black and white. Maybe just paint in a little bit of this color. There you go. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go back to the makeup layer. Like I said, most of it's fine. If we really wanted to, we can come in here with a black paintbrush or one of these colors and maybe just come here and like touch up some of the line work. But to be honest, I don't think it really needs that. I can come and I can maybe just darken up the lines so they're a bit easier to see. If I wanted to, I can come and like really extend the makeup a little bit here. Like just maybe make these a little sharper. Got this whole kiss thing going on. But to be honest, I don't think this even really needs to be done. I mean, all I really did was just kind of do that little fix, and already I think that's fine. That's totally fine. We could also maybe increase the saturation on our pink hair if we wanted to, just for fun. A lot of this that we're going to do now is just going to be basically your taste, like what you think looks cool or not cool. I can grab the picker. Let's actually grab this color, grab the picker, grab up this pink. It's going to kind of select that pink area, and I can just like really pop it up. But to be honest, it's actually quite saturated already. So we can just go ahead and kind of bump up the saturation, and then we'll invert it and just paint it back in because I don't want it to affect the other parts of her suit. I want to just basically kind of bring up the saturation around here. All right, so I think that looks actually pretty good. Let's go ahead and highlight everything and see what we've done so far. That is the before, and that is the after. The shoulder's been fixed, the suit's touched up a bit. And now the last thing I think I want to do is I want to do a little bit of liquefaction on the face just because of the angle. I'm kind of shooting below. Let's see, it looks like I'm shooting kind of at her waist level and below. And she's kind of looking down, causing her chin to kind of tuck into her neck, which makes the chin and the jawline look a lot bigger than it actually is. So what I want to actually do is I'm just going to liquify and make the face a little bit smaller. So we're going to do that. You can't liquefy on an empty layer. You have to liquefy on like a full pixel layer. So what I could do, if I want to save space, is I could just go to, where am I going to? Going to layer, merge visible. That is going to create a new background pixel layer with everything that I've done. Then with that layer selected, I'm going to just go ahead and grab my lasso tool. I'm just going to go ahead and just grab that. And I'm going to duplicate that by hitting Command J. Then I'm going to delete that layer because I don't need the whole unselect. I'm going to delete that layer we just made. And so now all we do is we just have that as a layer. And then I'm just going to liquefy that. That just saves a little bit of space. Maybe helps with performance a little bit because you don't have a whole big image duplicated there. And just with my normal little push in here, we're just going to, I'm going to switch my mouse right now, and I'm just going to slightly just tuck in the jaw a little bit. Nothing crazy. I'm not trying to reshape her whole face or anything. I'm just going to kind of, adjust for the weird camera angle. And maybe we can even make the jaw come maybe down. Maybe this neck here, by bringing that shadow up, it's going to make the neck look a bit sharper. And kind of tuck the chin in so the chin doesn't look so wide. Something like that. This was that before, and that is the after. And we haven't, all I'm really doing is almost like a lens correction just to correct for this weird angle. And I think that really just kind of helps to sell the aesthetic. Looks really good. There's a lot of other parts in this costume that could be fixed, like again, all these wrinkles in the cloth, this strap here. But like I said, I want to keep it looking like a homemade, you know, costume, because she did spend a lot of time making this, and I don't want to completely, you know, just redo it and make it look almost like CG. So I'm gonna keep this for now. And so the last thing I want to do is we can do some cool lighting effects. So because I lit this in a way with pink light from the left, blue light from the right, we can come down here and say, let's go to lighting. We're gonna get a cool live lighting thing. And this is pretty easy to play with. Just kind of come in here, you create a little light cone. Let's bring our ambient light level all the way up to 100%. Let's bring our specular color to pink, because that's the side that we're on. And then we're gonna bring our specular shininess as high, 100% like that. And kind of adjust where I think I want it to go. Maybe move this around. You can grab this center one to kind of move the light, and we'll do something like that. That looks pretty cool. I'm gonna close that out. I'm gonna duplicate this, so I'm gonna have two, but on this new one, let's grab it and let's bring it over here. And let's switch the color to blue. Like that. All right, now that's pretty intense. So then we can come here and lower the intensity a bit to do just kind of a fun lighting effect, something like that, where it still looks pretty natural and the light is justified. When you see this here, you think, okay, well, obviously there's a blue light hitting her leg, so that works. And you can come and you can play with the size or the angle, however you think you want it to work, just like that. And that is that there. So let's go ahead and grab everything. This is our before and this is our after. We've got a really cool cosplay colorful photograph that we edited all in Affinity Photo. So I appreciate you guys for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. And I guess I will see you guys in the next video. I'm always happy to hear your comments and stuff like that, so keep them coming, and I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.